How would you describe the difference on communicating this and the way values are communicated, or maybe even the values that are being communicated between Western and Asian societies?
Yeah. Again, I'd go back to the word, which is probably too overused, but authenticity. I think one of our great fears we eventually reach in society is not to be uniquely different. Most men, particularly, but men and women have a slightly different view on it, but one of our fears in life is to die without being noticed, without leaving our imprint on the world. And so we generally want to find some way that we did something unique, and retail brands help us be unique. And what I've been searching for in China is that unique difference that they are making in the world. And you can see that a little bit with their confidence right now about their political system, their society values, and how you can see this sense of pride happening. And I think that pride will translate into retail brands, where they feel like, what, we do value, we have made a difference. And I think you'll see it on a global, country level, all the way down to the individual level, where people say, this is why I'm different. I think the first phase is to grab brands from all around the other world, kind of cliche brands, but human beings in general, they have a great contradiction. The contradiction is we really want to belong, but we really want to be differentiated from other people. And this need to be different than other people. I'm curious to see how that happens here, more so.
Do you see playing local brands a key role in the future?
I do. I see local stories. I see mega, international brands trying to figure out how to make their products more local as well, trying to tell a story here. But I also see local brands rising up, heroic stories, archetypes that a local person can look to and start carrying around the legend mythology of that brand. That's what I don't see as much as the kind of folklore, legend and mythologies about local brands. I see it in small pockets, but I don't see it on a searing level, the Steve Jobs or the Henry Fords of China. But I think you're going to inevitably see that, and people will gravitate to that because they will see a piece of themselves, their spirit and pride. I'll give you an example. I do work for Anheuser-Busch in America, and I also do a lot of microbreweries. And whenever we have a microbrewery in a town, it does incredibly well because people want to support their local team. And even if it's not as a good a product, they'll support it for a while. And it's a great challenge for Anheuser-Busch to deal with microbreweries. In America too, we love baseball teams. We call them the lovable losers. We love the Chicago Cubs, even though they never win. But people feel that they relate to that. And so I'm yearning to see when that happens here in China, when those brands. And again, I think it's happening. It just hasn't been in a very collective, profound, simplistic way.
Any advice you can give on how being local in China, with China being such a big country with so many varieties of cultural layers within the country, how companies should approach to steering this?
Well, I'm an architect that believes in place, and so for me, I believe, despite the internet, despite cell phones and text messaging and FedEx and all of these things, we are human beings at our core. We haven't evolved in a couple of million years. We're still the same, and we walk forward. We don't walk backwards. We walk upright. We like our bodies, and we generally need and crave human contact and social contact. And the experience of life is still very important to us. A baby dies if it's not touched. And a human soul is bitter if it isn't warmed by other human beings, particularly people that they haven't met. There's something very powerful in being around a group of other people. And in my opinion, I think that one of the deficits that we have in society, in our modern economy, are great physical experiences, great collective experiences, great bonfire experiences. It's a primal trait in us. And so I believe that great brands are built through really great physical experiences. But I don't think the knowledge is that well developed in that, in terms of how to create those experiences. I would relate it again to kind of what we're talking about with status, is that so much of the architecture being done here is all object-oriented design. Giant perfume bottles, 80-story perfume bottles. And so they're great objects, but they're not really great socially facilitative spaces. And I think that what we're craving in society are safe, facilitated places that give us a sense of adventure and journey and purpose, communion, and convening at its core. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist in certain areas, it certainly does, but the basic mall is not really in touch with where consumer values are going. People need public places to meet, not private places to meet. And retail, this market idea, the agora, has been around for thousands of years. This idea of meeting in a public place and finding out about your world at the market. You know, the center of civilization was not the church or the city government. It has always been the market. And so there's something a bit artificial about the mall. It's a bit vain and private. And so this public experience is very, very important. And food plays a big role in that, retail. And it's not really about selling, it's about a value exchange. You know, it's about this, I have something I want to give to somebody else, and we need to barter and to feel this sense of communion with other people. I hope that doesn't sound too esoteric.
And I absolutely agree with this.
Yeah.
And I think that links us wonderfully back to the very beginning, where we discussed about the signals the body perceives and how we're influenced by our environment. Could you explain how in retail we would have to adjust the environment to create this communion feel in, for example, a supermarket?
Yeah, I think so much of what I see out there is what I'd call conscious, logical, rational buying behavior. And what I mean by that is we put up signs to tell people what we're going to do, and we tell them intellectually so much what's going to happen to them. And the body doesn't like conscious experiences. We like to be irrational, illogical. We like to go in our subconscious, and the way I'd liken it to is a movie theater. When I go to a movie theater, I don't want to be so aware of the movie and looking back at the projector and being, you know, on top of the movie. I need to be in the movie. I need to be completely engrossed in the movie, that to the point that I will laugh, scream, or cry in front of strangers. And it's a very powerful experience to get in a room, a man particularly, to cry with a number of strangers. That is a very profound experience. And what happens in that experience is that I'm so engrossed in the film that I've forgotten my car, I've forgotten the light bill, I've even forgotten my job for 2 hours. I'm becoming somebody else. I've left my ordinary routine world and become somebody else. Well, the way that happens is it's a black box inside the theater, and every scene and every element is thought in terms of cropping the experiences so that there's no gap in the experience. In fact, a movie will die if there's a gap in the experience. If there's one scene you go, it just ruins it for you. You just now all of a sudden thought, I don't believe it. Or if somebody turned on the cell phone, you lose the moment. And so what we're trying to do with consumers is we're trying to get them in this very subconscious, irrational, illogical state, not to manipulate them. Consumers like to be in this state. And so I find far too much of retail done on a very logical, rational level, very price, feature-driven level. And I hear this word over and over, features and benefits, but it's really features, benefits, drama. The drama of life is what we're really about. I look at body language in stores, and if people walk out and they're down, or they're just tired, or they're agitated, I haven't done a good job. But if I can make them walk out of there with smiles on their face, excited, still talking about the experience, then I know I've succeeded. And we know that in our firm. We have cultural anthropologists, and we study body language, and we know. We don't ask consumers what they think of the experience. We watch and see how they behave in the experience. So we know we're doing well when they're engaged in the product and they're smiling.
I'm going to ask a difficult question.
Sure.
Examples.
Okay. In Whole Food stores, which is an organic natural food grocery store, when we get you in the prepared food section of the store, and we're taking food and throwing it up in walks and fire, you will see the eyes light up in the behavior. You'll see people forget the amount of time. You'll see their body language slow down as they're getting in there. And you'll start to see them order food in a way that they haven't thought about ordering food. And we know that that's changing. We know that's changing their behavior inside that experience. In a Harley-Davidson store, consumers will walk in very kind of trepid and thinking carefully about the experience. But once they get inside there, and they start bonding with other like-minded characters, and that's what we find. It's not the bike that sells, it's not the motorcycle that sells the consumer, it's the tribe. And so if we can choreograph tribal behavior in a certain way, And again, you might ask for a specific example, a bonfire. We literally have bonfires in Harley-Davidson stores out in front. And groups of men aren't very good at meeting other men. It's a very hard thing for them to do. So you have to give them a device. And so what we'll do is we'll put a bonfire out, and they'll sit around the bonfire, and they'll start to get to know each other. Or we'll put a window in the store where they're working on the motorcycle. And the men will sit there and watch their motorcycles be worked on and talk to each other. And what they're getting in that store isn't a motorcycle. They're getting, and for midlife crisis male, the end of loneliness. So what we say in the Harley-Davidson store, we're not selling transportation. We're selling the end of loneliness for a lot of men who are trying to figure out what the heck to do next in their life. I have customers at Harley-Davidson that don't even ride their motorcycles on the road. They ride them 100 feet up and down in front of their house because they're terrified to get on the highway, but they're at a Harley store once a week. They're at that store for the tribe, for the behavior. So it's choreographing the store to give the customer something beyond the product. In a Whole Foods store, we're not giving the customer food as much as we're giving them a food philosophy. And a food philosophy is far more important than just product. If it was just product, we'd be in trouble because it's very expensive to shop there. Does that help?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Wonderful. What I'm looking at in China, if we translate this into China, will we be able to create similar experiences in China?
Without question, without a doubt. It's inevitable, in my opinion. It will go this way. And it'll either happen one or two ways. It'll either happen something organically, somebody we don't even know about in a garage working on a product, building a store, who just has a vision that he believes, or she believes he wants to sell. And that'll happen either naturally, or it'll happen from the professionals coming in and helping the retailers get there. I think what has to happen is the knowledge of how consumers behave in store. I think that enlightenment, that insight has to happen. And I think it's being overshadowed by the incredible growth and a lot of the, I don't want to pick on status brands, I really don't, but the incredible hype of status brands. And in most economies that grow and that are very basic, the first thing that happens is the market gets segmented into low, middle, high, and the high gets celebrated. But I think as this market matures, segments evolves, I think you're going to see that low, middle, high be too simplistic. And I think you're going to start seeing a whole different kind of situation happen. In my opinion, it's inevitable. The stores will become much more experiential, and the consumer will crave more experience. It'll be needed. As human beings, we have an imperative to get out and mingle with other human beings. As they get more retail products, as consumers get that and they get more accustomed to choice, they're going to start looking for choices in their experiences, particularly young people who are looking for mates. I know that sounds very basic, but at our core, one of the #1 drivers that young people have is fear of meeting their significant other, which used to happen in church, used to happen in school, and now that is going to happen at retail. In America, we have date night at grocery stores. We have a lot, over 50% of the adult American is either single or divorced, and they need ways to congregate. And so retail is playing a big role in helping people congregate. I don't mean just stores, shopping centers, the whole combination of it all, but it can't look like a shopping center. It's got to look like a public place. That distinction is very key to me. A shopping mall is very deliberate, but a public place is just about going somewhere and hanging out and strolling and milling and having that accidental encounter, which is beautiful. It's such a great quality to have in life, and so we're trying to cultivate that kind of situation. I think you're going to see young people. I was just talking to young Chinese consumers here this morning, and all of them are single. All of them are working hard, they're professionals, but what worries them isn't buying a home. What worries them is, how am I going to meet my magic other? And so we're always trying to make those connections. How does retail help us? At its core, buying a Louis Vuitton purse is about being recognized and distinguished and hopefully being attractive. But I think getting much deeper in that attractiveness is what I'm intrigued with happening here in China at its level. I think you're seeing food and beverage do a really good job of that right now. But retail really needs to get into that food and beverage angle as well.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thanks very much for your time.
It wasn't too out there,
very
too esoteric. Okay. And I think had you seen a presentation, you would have seen live examples of what I'm talking about, which is a little hard to talk about here. But what we try to do is we're trying to get people to stop shopping in a commodity manner, and we're trying to get them to shift into a more meaningful behavior. And if you'd have seen, you know, some of the presentations, you'd have seen how we're looking at the psychology of moms and what they're buying. We're looking at the psychology of midlife crisis males, and we're looking at young consumers saying, well, what is it they're really looking for beyond just